Hi, I'm Misty SOLDwisch, and I've been successfully selling real estate since 1999. Find out my secrets on how you can do your best with Be Better DSM.
So I believe that we are live on Facebook now, and thanks everyone for joining us for our Be Better DSM live webinar for lead conversion. And I have with me today Erin Moulton and Allison Langrick from Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Innovations, and I am Misty SOLDwisch. So, Erin, tell us a little bit about yourself before we begin.
Oh, hey, Missy. My name's Erin Moulton, and I've been in real estate now for 10 years, and I come from a family of real estate agents, and so I've been around real estate my entire life. I started off in the mortgage industry, so I did that for about 8 years, and then moved over from the mortgage business to the real estate business, and I've really made a focus on training agents. We've gotten a lot of agents into the business, train a lot of agents. Right now, I'm training 5 brand new agents right now. And so just love all aspects of real estate and just happy to be here today. So can't wait to talk about converting leads. This is exciting because this is what everyone needs to do.
And Allison, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Allison. I've been in real estate for just over a year, like 13 or 14 months. I knew that I wanted to get into a career where I could help people, and I just really love the process of helping people find homes and all the things that come with real estate. I knew that it was a job that would challenge me and really test all of my abilities and skills that I'd previously developed. And I just really wanted to focus on making my dent, and that just so happened to be real estate.
Awesome. So I think one really interesting thing about Allison is that she's in real estate talking to clients every day, and yet her role is so different than the traditional real estate model. Tell us a little more about the specifics of what your job is in exactly what we're talking about, converting leads.
Yeah, so I work as an inside sales agent. Client services associate is what we call it. And so my job is to really help anyone who comes in, whether that be call, text, email, walk-in, whatever method that they arrive with us, and to figure out what it is that they need. Do they need to sell a home? Do they need to purchase a home? Are they helping a family member? Just really getting down to the bottom of what it is they need help with and how we can help as a team. So I really work hard to connect people with who they need to be connected with, and following up with them. And, sometimes they aren't ready to buy this month. They're not ready to buy in 3 months. And so my job is also to follow up with them and see, how we can help them along that process. It's more of a journey. It's not really a sprint.
Yeah. So the interesting thing, Allison has been in real estate for over a year. She has participated in many, many transactions, but it's all been on the phone, on the computer, and on the front end of building a relationship. So just a very unusual model for our area, but it's the basis of what we think could work well for anyone as tips of when they're trying to build their business. So Be Better DSM, it's our coaching team here at Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Innovations. And the intent of Be Better DSM is we really have a dedication to collaborate with agents in our market and raise the bar for our local industry. And doing webinars, Facebook Lives like this, and collaborating, sharing what we do that works well, I think is really important because, it's one thing to watch some of those big real estate coaches like Tom Ferry or Club Wealth or different things like that. And sometimes it can be easy to go, well, that's great, Tom Ferry, but I'm in Des Moines, Iowa. That I don't know that that's going to work for me here. And it's important for us to be able to hear everyone's true experiences in our local market and what works great here. So that's why we're doing it. And Erin, do you have any perspective to share on as far as with your experience in the industry and just what kind of things you see as being helpful for people when they're building their business, just as a starting point?
Yeah, so when you first get into real estate, obviously you have to make your own financial investment in yourself, basically, to get even a real estate license. So a lot of realtors, I mean, initially they're spending $2,000-3,000 just to get in the business. And then all of a sudden now they have the license. And in real estate school, anyone that's been through real estate school, soon realizes they don't teach us how to work with buyers and sellers, how to convert leads. And so in today's market, things are changing really quickly. We have to be literally on the cutting edge and know, is this person that's looking at houses online, what types of property they're looking at online? How can I figure out, how long they've been on my website? How do I capture their information? What if they don't put in a real name, and they're on my website? I mean, they really, is that a real person? And so it's just navigating through all the new technology has become just a real challenge in real estate. And so, and real estate's always still going to be about relationships. And so what we're ultimately trying to do is build up these relationships with these people, whether they're a call-in or an online lead, that's still a real person on the other end of the line. And we, just like a friend that we would take care of in real estate, we've got to figure out how to convert that person into being a customer. And so that becomes a challenge. And, I think today what we're going to do is just give some great tips and tools on how to convert any of these leads, into becoming, literally lifelong customers of ours.
Absolutely. So first of all, what the process is. And Allison, if you could share with everyone a little bit about when we get a new buyer or seller inquiry, what our process is to make sure that they're connected with and followed up with.
Yeah, so we, using our CRM, we organize leads based on what they inquire on. And can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, it didn't switch to me. So we organize them and we reach out via call, text, email, as long as they leave all three methods, or reach out in whatever method that we can, trying to connect with them. A lot of times people have a certain communication that they prefer. And so just trying to make sure we're meeting them on whatever level it is. And from that point, we then organize them based on, are they a buyer? Are they a seller? What was their question? Did they inquire on a specific property? And we just kind of go from there to figure out, okay, now what's our next step? Do we get a hold of them? Do we not get a hold of them? After that, then it's kind of a matter of continuing to reach out until we make contact with these clients. It always amazes me when we haven't heard from someone and we, then we hear from them. It's staying on top of it.
Yeah. So speed to connect with them. What's our goal?
Our goal, really, I like to see in 15 minutes. I think it should be less than 5.
Goal.
Less than 5 is really, what we're shooting for. We know that your opportunity of connecting with a lead drops significantly the more time that passes. And a lot of that has to do with the source. If you are the first one to reach out, we know that you have a higher chance of converting that lead. If you're the last person to reach out at 10 p.m. at night, you have a lot lesser of a chance. So we really try to make sure within the first 5 minutes, but 15 minutes, it seems to even be too late.
So Erin, you had some stats about that too. I think that would be good to share.
Yeah, so there's some recent stats that have been done because the models are changing all over the country. And so we're now starting to get a lot of data in on how the consumer wants to be contacted. And it says that if you wait more than 5 minutes to reach out to a lead, they're 21 times less unlikely to convert to being your client. Just waiting a little bit more than 5 minutes. And so, and it's also pretty interesting right now. In that same study, they even said that 50% of all of our leads are going to come in after business hours. And so a lot of people are like, oh, I'm a realtor, and at 6 o'clock, I'm done for the day. Well, I usually, when I get home from work, if I had a normal 9-to-5 job, that's when I'm going to start looking at properties online. And so it's really important that we're open to accepting leads, that are coming in, just not during the typical business hours.
Well, and I think that so much of our job when we're a solo agent or a home buying specialist on a team, you're spending a lot of time in those after hours actually showing properties with clients too. So so being mindful that like every minute it's like dollars going away. and so having a system to be able to be fast and connect, even if you don't have an Allison waiting at an office to pick up that call. So what are some different ways? So kind of touching on that, Allison, we have both like manual processes like calling and doing a physical text, but then we also have some automated features we put in place too, just to enhance our chances. So what are some of the things that we do for that?
Yeah, so depending on where that lead comes from, they might be a part of something that's already set up to send them a text immediately when they respond. They are already receiving an email. When that lead comes in on my end, we set them up on a drip as well. So we reach out, but we also make sure that something's going. So they're still receiving stuff. Our name is still sticking in front of them. As far as calls are concerned, our calls do forward to different ones of us. So we have a greater chance of getting them on that first call, whether it be one of us is in the office, out of the office. We know that answering that phone call is of utmost importance. If they're calling you, they're interested. They're typically a buyer or a seller who's ready to kind of make things happen. And so that's another automated process that we just kind of let forward to us, and we all claim it as soon as we can get to it.
So Allison, I got a quick question for you. It actually came in on our comments here on our Facebook Live. What happens if you're calling someone and they don't answer right away? They just, you get a voicemail. What's your next step?
So usually my first reach out is going to be a call. And in that voicemail, I let them know, hey, I'm going to follow up with a text and an email. I know that your time may be tight right now. You may be heading home. I just let them know that I'm going to follow up by all methods that I have. And a lot of times if I don't catch them on that first call and I leave a voicemail, they text and they say, hey, I'm driving home, or I've got dinner in the oven. I'll get back to you. And I say, okay, great. When's a great time for me to call you? It's just making sure that we have that initial reach out and then we follow up with what we say we're going to do. And it just kind of depends on too what their inquiry would be.
Yeah. So we have some of those automated. So when Allison was referring to a drip, a lot of different CRM systems have kind of a plan of things that will go out to that client right away. And, we use that as an extra security net, but a lot of agents mistakenly will just kind of let that like do its thing. And it really needs to enhance like you actually having a system, not be the system. One great tip though, a system that we started using last year in addition to our CRM is called Agent Legend. And we have really found that it's pretty inexpensive in the scheme of all the things you spend money on in real estate. But what it does is it will automatically drop a voicemail to the client. It will send a text and an email, and then it does a follow-up as well. And it's amazing how that combined with our system it just magnifies. So I think that is some, finding a system like that when you're beginning to put a real follow-up plan in place is a great place to start. So, so yeah. So anything else as far as the system? So one person asked, how many clicks before you make them register? Erin, have you heard any?
Well, yeah. So I
Do
mean,
you have
like
any
what's happening
theories
is,
about that?
what's happening nowadays is there's so many different websites where you can find the same home. And
Mm-hmm.
so, a lot of people, if they're out searching for a house, they maybe like go to Realtor.com or Zillow. Maybe they're on our own website, a corporate website. You just never know which website they're on looking at properties. But on our own internal websites, we want to give them information about the house. But then when they start wanting more information, maybe they want to see more than 2 photos of the property, then at that point in time, our website will have a prompt that pops up on the screen and asks them to register. And it's a great way for us to start capturing their information. A lot of times it'll encourage them to log in to the site to view more photos or more information with their Facebook or their Google account. And so there's just lots of different ways, but you don't want to, and some websites we don't have any control. Zillow, you're going to find as many photos as you can, as someone can post on there. But if it's your own website that either your company has or that you own yourself as a real estate agent, I would, I'd maybe let them view 1, 2, 3 photos, be on the site for a certain amount of time, and then all of a sudden they've got to register because we need to at some point in time capture their information.
Yeah, and there's a couple different schools of thought about that, and it's just figuring out, and part of that's like what your ability is to be able to nurture, follow up long-term and short-term prospects. When there's a forced registration, one person had commented about like sometimes people are resistant if they registered a few seconds ago and then they're like, oh, I was just trying to get photos, leave me alone. So those forced registration that maybe are a lower quality lead or a longer term prospect, because we know a lot of times people start hunting online 12 to 18 months before they're ready to buy, versus if you have all the information available and you click for information, that tends to be a higher quality prospect, and yet you're going to have much fewer of those. And so it's, what your ability is to be able to nurture and follow up and assess where things are. And like Erin said, there's sites that we work with that we have control over, and there's sites that we work with that they're the ones who make those rules, and we need to understand them so that we're putting the proper plans in place. So, yeah.
So Misty, I have another question for you, Misty.
Yeah.
So it seems like nowadays that Zillow has become a really popular place to go off and start the process of looking for a house.
Mm-hmm.
As a real estate agent, it's either what's your experience right now with working with Zillow?
Mm-hmm. Well, Zillow is the site that real estate agents love to hate, and it's and there's a lot of kind of real estate political things about it, but the truth is consumers love it. It's very easy for people to find information, accurate or not accurate, and so it's something that just understanding how they're always changing how they do things and understanding how they work. We have found Zillow to be a tremendous cornerstone of our lead capture system. But and we make a large monthly investment in Zillow, and that might evolve over time. But right now, we know that it differentiates us, and a lot of people that are serious buyers are on that site and sending inquiries. So, yeah, we know that it can be extremely effective. And any thoughts on that, Allison, as far as from your perspective and being on the front line of taking inquiries from Zillow on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think that Zillow is a great opportunity for people to find the information that they're looking for. It's quick. And that is the main reason why we really have to make sure our response time is great. More often than not, if they're on Zillow and they hit contact agent, it probably didn't just come to us.
No.
So we really have to utilize the tools that we have to the best of our capabilities. And a lot of that is speed to lead, especially with Zillow. I think that wherever that client is, whatever they're looking at, we have to meet them where they're at. So if it's Zillow that they love to use, we're going to adapt and help them the best we can, regardless of whether they were forced to register on our website or Zillow, whatever it may be. They're still a buyer and they're ready to rock and roll, hopefully.
Right. And that's ultimately, I mean, you know, there's a lot of debate about agents about like, I don't want to support Zillow and that sort of thing. And I guess my mindset right now is that, you know, we can theorize whatever we think is fair or not fair in the way people practice their business, but we're making a conscious decision to not work with buyers and not have opportunities if we don't participate. And, you know, we want to do business, so we're going to work with them. So I think the next thing that we should kind of roll into is, you know, how you talk to people. So we've said, you know, you need to be quick. You need to have a system in place for following up, but just that basic conversation. So with Be Better DSM, we've done several business planning workshops with Des Moines agents, and it's been really interesting to me, kind of like Erin touched on at the beginning of our session here. You know, one thing that we see a lot in our market is a lot of training on the forms and, you know, how you use our systems and different things like that. But where there's a real gap in information is exactly how you talk to prospects and how you get the information that you need to qualify them and what you do to convert them. So I think it's really great to start with our agents with the basics of a scripting concept called LP Mama. And LP Mama is a great thing to remember to make sure you're hitting all of those key points to qualify that buyer. So LP Mama: location, price, motivation, agent, mortgage, and appointment. So if you hit all of those different points, you have a really good idea of what you need to know to determine if there's someone that would be great to work with and kind of what their story is and how you can serve them best. So Erin, any thoughts on LP Mama versus other methods of qualifying people?
Yeah, I think that having some sort of a system, when you have a conversation with someone, you have to be able to get them through the conversation without it dragging on for too long. But then also, you also don't want to miss out on something that's really, really important. I mean, I could have a 15-minute conversation that I think is great, and I'm going to get them as a lead. And then all of a sudden, I didn't find out that, you know, their dad was a real estate agent. And so it just wasn't part of the process. But see, an LP Mama here, the A, if you remember LP Mama, the A, we're going to ask them at some point in time in the conversation, it's scripted out that we're going to get to that and figure out if they have an agent without coming out and saying, are you working with an agent? Because as we'll role play one of these out here in a second, most people that we are going to talk to, they know a real estate agent. And so there's ways to get through this list, and it just helps a conversation flow nicely. You know, just getting through this, like Misty was saying before, we got location, price, motivation, what's their time frame, agent questions about mortgage or are they approved, and then also trying to get an appointment. There's your LP Mama.
Yeah. So a lot of times the hardest thing is where to start in the conversation as when you're first calling or when you're picking up the phone. And we have tried a million different ways, and it always goes back to, we have found, and this is not something that we have amazingly come up with on our own. We love to collaborate and coach with different people that are great at this as well. And Allison, what is the perfect opening line for anyone that you talk to?
Yeah, so our favorite thing and the first thing we talk about in this office, are you thinking about purchasing a home in the future? Or are you just curious? And how they answer that question should direct that conversation. Even if they're just curious, that's not where we hang up. It's a way to really, it's an open-ended question. And so they are really encouraged to say more than just yes or no.
Well, and it's such a soft opening too. Like, are you just curious, or are you thinking about purchasing a home in the future? It gives them a choice, but it's actually asking, either way, it's directing them into a real estate conversation. So, and you can flip it like, are you just curious, or are you thinking, or just curious? Either way, you're giving them multiple options and not putting a lot of pressure on them. So that works great. Now, one thing that people that are viewing, so we're going to start out with this, but then we're also going to tackle like a lot of the common objections that we're hearing a lot of right now, that it's great to have a script to overcome. So if you think of those while we're doing this, just type them in the comments. I'm going to give you a couple examples of things that we hear a lot of right now. I don't want my home on the market during the holidays, or I want to wait till spring when there's more homes on the market, or like Erin touched on, I've got a friend who's a real estate agent. So things along those lines, we'd love to collaborate on. So anything that you have that you've been seeing a lot of in our Des Moines market for objections, or things that you're like, how do I get through this? Type it up and we'll tackle that after we go through LP Mama. So I will volunteer to be the real estate agent. Yay. Which one of you wants to be the buyer?
I can be the buyer, not a problem.
Okay. So I am going to treat this as if you sent an inquiry and you put your phone number in. So I picked up the phone and called you, okay? So, hello, can I speak to Erin?
This is.
Hey, Erin, this is Misty from the Misty SOLDwisch home selling team at Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Innovations. You just sent an inquiry on this great property at 123 Main Street. Were you just curious, or are you thinking about doing something in real estate in the near future?
Oh, wow, that was quick. I'm like still on your website right now, so I wasn't expecting someone to call me real quick.
Well, I'm here to help.
But yeah, we were just kind of looking. We're just always out there looking to see if there's another house that might fit our family.
Yeah, understand. So this particular home is located in Ankeny. Are you looking at any areas other than Ankeny for a home?
We'd take anything, on the north side of Polk County. I think that would work for our family.
Okay. Where do you live now?
Right now, we're kind of in that Saylor Township area, and we'd like to move a little bit further north into Ankeny.
Yeah. So this particular property is listed for $300,000. What's the budget that you have in mind for your next home?
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was 300,000. Not really sure yet what we could afford for a house, but
Sure.
I think if we could, I'm more concerned. I need to probably keep my house payment under probably $1,700 a month.
Okay.
But I don't know what that really equates out to for a house.
Sure. Well, we'll do a little bit of work on that and figure that out. So what's interesting to you about this property, and why is now a good time to take a look?
Well, it was one of the first houses I was actually looking at online. I kind of like it because it has a really nice backyard, and it's fenced in, and I've got kids, And so I just think, something with fenced in backyard, a little bit quieter street is exactly what we're looking for.
Great. So do you own a home now or do you rent?
Right now we're renting. Yep.
Where's that at?
So
In
it's
the
right,
Sadell area?
yeah, in that Sadell area, yeah, right off of like, right in between like 2nd Avenue and East 14th Street, that area right in there.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So if you found the perfect home, when would you be ready to move?
Oh, wow. I mean, we could move right away. I mean, like right now we're just, we're on a month to month. We had been the rental house we're in for 3 years now. But we're at a point where we can just give a 30-day notice and we could be out if we could find something anytime.
What a perfect place to be in, to have such flexibility so that you can find the right home for you and have everything available. That's great. So have you been inside any open houses or checked out any homes so far?
Yeah, actually on Sundays, we love to go out and we will look at new construction houses. There seem to be new construction houses all over Ankeny right now, but they seem pretty expensive. And we've been in a couple of existing houses just on Sunday afternoons. But that's been the extent of it so far.
So have you ever worked with a real estate agent one-on-one?
Yeah, so we had an agent that was out showing some properties. Like we went through an open house with them a couple months ago, and then they called us and they showed us like 3 houses, but we haven't heard from the agent since then.
Sure. Well, gosh, I would love to be able to meet with you and show you how I love to be able to help buyer clients that are in a situation just like yours and help them successfully find the right home. So have you talked to a lender, or are you thinking about how you're going to be making the purchase?
No, I haven't even talked to any lenders yet, anything. I'm assuming I could probably just talk to my local banker.
Sure.
Probably get us.
Yeah. But like you said, you're kind of hoping ideally for a payment $1,600 to $1,700, somewhere in there.
I think that's what we could do. I mean, our rent payment's about $1,300 a month right now, and I think we could afford a little bit more than that for a house payment.
Perfect. Yeah. And gosh, you're going to have amazing options in the area you're looking based on that kind of budget. So you're in a good spot. I would love to send information to you about some lenders that we work with that have great programs for people in your situation that just have competitive rates and would do a good job for you. Okay?
Okay, that works.
Yeah, we'll make it easy. So sounds to me like this looked like a home along the lines of what you're looking for, but there's a lot of great options out there. And it's just a matter of finding the home that's going to be the right fit for you, right?
Yeah, I think that's the key. And I mean, obviously, we need to be able to, have a house that's got enough, we've got 3 kids. And so right now we got 2 kids in the same room. We'd like to get a house that has, enough bedrooms for all 3 kids to have their own room. And I'd love a house that have a finished basement in it. And so I don't know if that's even something that's in my price point or not, but that'd be our if we had our dream home, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. Well, let's do this. Here's what I've seen work really well for people in your situation. Let's set a time to get together. I would love to do a home selling or home buying consultation with you. I'm going to go through exactly what that process is. We're going to outline a strategy. We'll look at some different homes online together as well. I'm going to pinpoint the best homes for you to look at in order to, with all of those kids at home, I'm sure you're super busy. We want to make this a really smooth, easy process so that you're able to get into the right home and at the right time for your needs.
What about that house? The house I was just looking at. I mean, do you think we could go take a look at that one here, around 5 o'clock tonight when I get off work?
So, you know what? Let's see what we can do. So now, are you going to be the only decision maker, or
my wife would
spouse?
Yeah, okay. My wife, she'd need to come along too.
Yeah. So you guys are available at 5 o'clock?
Yeah, we could do 5 tonight.
Okay, so let's do this. let's set a time to, let's get together at 5 o'clock and kind of go through some initial information at my office. And then we will put together a strategy of several different homes that you can look at, because it's fun. You know, this is a great home that would be a perfect one for you and your wife to look at. But I'd love to be able to get us lined up to be able to look at multiple homes, because it certainly makes it easier to compare and for you and your wife to be able to discuss what your needs are. Don't you think that would work great?
Yeah. So you're saying if I meet with you first at your office, then we could go out and see more than one house?
Absolutely. And, you know, we'll figure out what makes sense for timing if we're looking at occupied homes or new construction and that sort of thing. But that will give us a great baseline to be able to get you into the right homes. And also at the same time, we'll have you, you know, start that process of getting connected to a lender so that you really have an idea of what your budget is and what kind of programs would be a great fit for you, so that we're looking at the right properties. Does that sound great?
Yeah. So, and what do I tell that agent that keeps texting me that showed me some houses a couple weeks ago? What do I tell that agent?
That's so nice that you're considerate of that. So, you know, we think it's important to really understand what the differences are of what services agents offer and what their process is. And that's why I would love to be able to go through that consultation process with you. And, you know, after we've talked and discussed how I work and how I like to approach you as a client, then you can decide if you want to move forward with me, which I hope you do, because I think that we'd work great together. Then we'll talk about what we need to do, if anything, with people that you've talked to in the past. But how considerate that you're concerned about that. That's so nice.
Well, that sounds good. So we'll meet at your office at 5 tonight, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to send you, now, would you prefer an email or a text with information?
You can just text me. This is my cell phone number. So you can just text me the address where we're going to meet at.
Okay, so I'm going to send you a text message with a confirmation. If you have any questions in the meantime, just reach out to me. I'm also going to have Mr. Lender reach out to you, or Ms. And they'll just introduce themselves so that you have their contact information, so that when you're ready to talk to them, then you can have that conversation.
Okay, that sounds great.
So can't wait to meet you and your wife. Excited to be able to help you.
Thank you.
Okay. So any thoughts with any thoughts with how the conversation went through the LP Mama? Did we cover all the bases?
Yeah, so I thought it was good that in the beginning, the property I had inquired about was in Ankeny, but you asked me, am I looking at any other locations besides Ankeny? I think that's a big key because sometimes people will consider school districts as their area. I mean, you can get out on the west side and they might be looking at a home in Waukee, but they would also consider a home in Urbandale or West Des Moines, because those also are in the Waukee school district. And so knowing that you need to also go a little bit deeper with your questions and find out, are you looking at other locations? Then that, expands I'm the buyer, I'm the one talking to you on the phone. It helps me think, I would actually consider some other locations, even though I didn't flat out come out and say that to you in the conversation.
Well, and we know as agents in Central Iowa that, I mean, you'll have people that are like really specific on location or school district and that sort of thing. But then like a lot of times first-time home buyers, it's like, I could be anywhere from Perry to Milo, or I mean, like all over the place. And so it's really kind of, then you have to start asking questions about like, do you have a commute in mind? But that's things you cover during your home buying consultation as well. I do see a lot of our newer agents, when they're learning LP Mama, a trap that they can fall into, exactly what you were touching on, Erin, is saying, this home is in Ankeny. Is that where you're looking? I mean, and so then they're like, yeah, instead of trying to leave it more open-ended. So yeah. The other thing to note was the agent, like have they been working with another agent, the approach that we take on that. And did you notice kind of how we went with that, Aaron?
Yeah. So instead of just coming out and just saying, are you working with another agent? I mean, that's probably the most common thing that an agent will ask. And it's a courtesy, I think, that us as realtors like to have. I mean, we don't want to step on other people's toes or steal other people's.
That's the phrase we hear all the time. I don't want to step on toes.
And so, so we like to take the approach of saying, have you been looking inside any of these homes, and just see where the conversation goes from there, what they're
and then dig deeper from there.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, because if they're only been looking online, then you're kind of gauging their interests, their motivation also in that question. But if they say, yeah, we've been looking inside of homes, then we need to figure out what method. And so in our situation, I'd been out looking at some open houses, and one of those agents actually took me out and showed me 3 other houses. And so it's just a way to find out. But we all know, I mean, just because an agent shows us 1 house, 2 houses, 3 houses, that's, not necessarily an agency relationship that's been set up so far.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's, I think it's great that we're also conscientious in our market of, wanting to make sure that the people on the other side are taken care of and all of that. At the same time, I think that a lot of it can be a very reflexive response to say, yeah, I've been working with someone, or really not understanding, like, just because someone emailed me something, they might not even realize I'm a real buyer. And so they're kind of blowing me off. And so the fact that they've contacted you, you deserve an opportunity to earn their business, because they're not making a connection on how real estate works. And they need someone to help them with that. So any other pieces of that? You were trying to throw me for a loop with the appointment thing, weren't you, Aaron? Yeah.
So, because that's what a lot of people do when they first call in, they typically, or if they're call in or where we know they're inquiring about a certain property, is a lot of times they want to see that one property. And so I've been there before when I first got into business. It'd be 6 o'clock at night. Someone, calls in on my new listing, and I drop everything. I leave the dinner table and run off and show that one property, only to find out that, they've got terrible credit and they have no dream of ever buying a house, Right. Just knowing that I can go through and hit on certain things in this LP Mama script will hopefully avoid those types of situations.
Yeah. And Allison, as an advanced lead converter, as our client services inside sales agent, Allison, tell a little bit about like your goal with the conversation when someone's asking about a specific home.
Yeah, so when I think a lot of agents fall into a trap and they make this conversation all about that home. And there's only so many questions you can ask. Oh, this one has 3 bedrooms. Do you like 3 bedrooms? So really our goal in client services, we would rather make that connection and figure out how it is that we can help them, and not make that entire conversation about real estate. And I think Misty did a really good job during that LP Mama, getting to know Aaron a little bit more. And they didn't even talk about that property. As far as client services, my department, we really work hard to figure out what it is that they want and how we can help them. We know that I think it's like over 93 or 97% of people don't buy the home that they inquire on. We know that. Yeah, that's a known fact. So why make this conversation all about one home when, as realtors, we can actually show them any home? We just have to figure out what it is that they're looking for and align what we can offer with what it is they need.
Exactly. And just selling the value of who you are and what we do, beyond just being able to open the door to this one home that they happen to ask about.
Yeah, I think client services are focused, just like Aaron said, he'd leave the dinner table for someone who didn't have great credit or wasn't actually able to buy. In client services, it's really our goal to help figure out what it is and how we can help them, whether this be a nurture or whether this be somebody that we chase for a little while. Just figuring out should we be dropping everything to help them to our home in 2 hours, or should we figure out, hey, we can sit down in the office and get a game plan down. What better serves that client? Is it just opening a door, or yeah?
And I think that that's maybe an advantage that that you have when, Allison doesn't go out and open anyone's doors. so she has to have the ability to make that conversation go in the direction of an appointment and sell the value on having a consultation. Whereas, the path of least resistance as a real estate agent can be like, oh, sure, I'll go meet you, like Erin talked about, but we haven't done things to the highest level. And so, it's an advantage of when you're forced to, that's your only option of participating and being paid by this client is if you make an appointment. And maybe that's something that you have to give yourself that mentality sometimes to have a different approach when you do have those other options available.
So Allison, I got a question for you. You talk to a lot of different people on the phone, and they come from all walks of life. You'll talk to people with, no offense, Southern accents. You talk to people that are, really fast talkers. Do you have to adjust your conversation based off the person and what they sound like on the phone? Like, how does that go?
Yeah. So one thing that I struggled, I would say at least probably the first 6 months, was mirroring and matching. We talk a lot about this, and it is harder to get somebody to do what you want them to do if you are, way kind of out in left field. I start the conversation as this very upbeat, ready to go. But if I sense that client, that's not where they're at, I'm going to tone it down. My whole goal is to build a connection. And so I really have to match what it is that they're displaying in order to really make a true relationship with that client. Accents, I typically don't develop a Southern accent. I have been known to say y'all occasionally, but I usually don't go down that road.
We do have some agents on our team that are so empathetic talking to clients that they do mirror their accent.
Yeah,
I love that.
And sometimes when you're making notes or you're trying to tell the agent, the situation, you're like, I have to imitate this to its full extent so they get it. As far as, sometimes there is that language barrier. And I think the most important thing is just having patience. This client is still a client, whether there's a language barrier or not. So we just have to make sure that we're helping them in ways that we can. I have had one or two, I believe, that preferred to have a conversation via email and text. So when I followed up with them, I didn't always call them because English is oftentimes harder for them to speak, but they can definitely text or email it sometimes.
Right.
So just meeting them where they are in the process.
Exactly.
And Allison, I got one more question for you. So, what does a typical day look like for you? You're an expert at taking these calls and making these calls. Do you make like 10 or 15 of them a day? How many phone calls do you try to make a day?
My goal is really to make about 250 calls. And we do have a system. We use Mojo Dialer, and it makes calls for us. So I can send 3 leads at the same time to dial. So 250 is I'm not sitting here for 8 hours. So my goal would be to answer every call as it comes in, but also make sure that I'm maximizing my opportunities by reaching out to as many people as I can throughout the day as well.
Now, that was 250 in one day?
Yeah.
And so, what's a good?
You could do more.
What's a good conversion rate? If you're making 250 phone calls, what would you consider a good day for you?
So I really like to have 20 contacts. I might make 250 calls, but that doesn't mean I talk to 250 people. My goal is to have 20 conversations, and that can be all the way to I'm not buying until 2020. Or, I'm just really not interested. I'm getting ready to take a job in Maine. My goal in itself, though, would be to at least talk to 20 people and, reorganize them in our CRM as they're needed.
And then to break that down further, what's your goal every day as far as how many appointments that you're shooting for?
Yeah, I'd like to make 3 a day, whether that be a combination of sellers versus buyers, all sellers, that sort of thing. But 3 is a really good day. I have had one Sunday where I set 6 or 7. That was a lot. But our goal really is to set 3.
And we know on days that we don't set any appointments, having as many contacts as possible, that turns into those days that you have 7 appointments, right?
Yeah, it all cancels out somehow, because the days that you get a lot more dials in, you get to talk to a lot more people, and those are people you follow up with. So maybe you don't get that consultation today, but you could get that consultation in 7 months.
Exactly.
So it just kind of depends on what's going on that day.
So if you get that appointment set up, Misty, what happens? What do you do between the time Allison has the conversation and when the appointment actually happens? As the agent, what do you do now?
So what our goal is, and I think it's important if you're a solo agent on your own too, and you've set an appointment, like in the LP Mama, I mentioned that I'm going to send you a text with a confirmation of here's where we're meeting, and here's my contact information. Make it as easy as possible for them. But then also, so when Allison sets an appointment, our home buying or home selling specialist will call them and introduce themselves, just because in a team setting, they're going to be working with multiple professionals. So and Allison does a great job of explaining that. And then when the agent calls them to confirm, they introduce themselves. Oh, I'm so excited to meet you. As a solo agent, you are going to want to send a confirmation and reminder about things as well. And just try to make additional contacts before you meet, just to solidify that relationship. So we have like 6 minutes left. Time flies when you're having fun. So we did promise that we were going to tackle a couple of the common objections that we've been hearing. I'm going to wait till spring. I have a friend who's an agent, and any other ones that we might hear from people watching. So when someone says right now, I think I'm going to wait till spring, what's a good way to approach that?
If you had an offer on your home today, would you accept it?
Mm-hmm. Great. I mean, definitely gauges motivation. What about for buyers? Like, oh, I've heard there's not as many homes on the market right now. I'm going to wait till spring when more homes come on the market.
So something you could say to them is, are you aware that right now, with the amount of inventory that we have, and also the interest rates are going up right now, if it's important to you to get into this house now while interest rates are lower, we can get you into this house and maybe save you potentially over $100 a month by securing interest rates where they are right now versus waiting. Is that something? That's a route you can take with them. Another route is prices are increasing. I mean, the Des Moines Register just did an article this last week that the assessor is going to raise up assessed values in Polk County 10%. And so that shows the strength of our market. And so if they wait around until springtime, when the market heats up, prices go up. And so now might be the best time to get the best price on a house. And so,
well, and approaching it from either side, like as a buyer, you know that the sellers that are on the market over the holidays, over the winter, they're motivated. And so that really gives you more opportunity to get a great deal. The traditional mindset is that spring is the hot time, and certainly our peak real estate sales months are in the springtime. And yet at those times, you're competing multiple offer situations, and that is so much less common during those during the winter months. And so it can really be an advantage as a buyer, less competition and motivated sellers that you're working with. On the flip side of that, as a seller, Erin, I loved, you had dug deep into some statistics on the Des Moines market for me a month or so ago about the percent of homes that sell during the the third quarter the fourth quarter of the year and the first quarter of the year, the kind of fall winter months?
Yeah, so I can kind of explain that here. If I love whiteboards, if you haven't noticed already. And so in our Des Moines market, about 15,000 homes will sell every year. And so everyone thinks that the hot time of year to sell a home is between March and August, typically that 6-month time frame. And it is right. I mean, in that time frame, it's about 60% of homes. It's actually like 58%. But then that still means that between October and February, we're still selling 42% of all of our homes. So, I mean, Des Moines is a big enough market where there's real estate always happening. Like we're always doing transactions. And so, I mean, 42% of 15,000, I mean, we're still talking, you know, over 7,000 properties that are going to sell in what a lot of people think are the slower months. And so there's opportunities, you know, all the time to get out there and sell someone a property.
And that's where, you know, being able to have, like, Aaron is a stats person. He clearly just loves digging into those numbers and understanding it. That's what really gets him excited about real estate. I am more like the psychology and, you know, kind of understanding what helps motivate people, that sort of thing. But, you know, even if you're not a statistics person, like having little pieces of information like that just suddenly give a lot of perspective to someone that might think things are one way, to be able to articulate the market just gives you so much more credibility and just really positions you as a professional to your clients. Okay, so what about, we kind of touched on this a little bit with LP Mama, well, if they'd been working with an agent, but what about Allison, what do you like to say if they go, well, I do have a friend who's an agent. Maybe I need to call them as well.
Yeah, so a lot of times people think that working with their friend, it might get them a better deal, or it would be, you know, kind of not nice to work with someone. If they have a friend who's a realtor, you know, my friend might judge me. But we see that oftentimes people who live with their friends or work with their friends, they have a harder time, you know, really having somebody who they can say like, I don't love that, or I'm not comfortable with that. People always say, I don't want to fire my friend. And that's something that we see a lot, you know, when people are calling and they're like, yeah, I listed with my friend, I couldn't sell my home. So we always try to dig in that conversation. You know, it's best to get a couple different opinions and see what really works for you and try and get in front of them and really, you know, set ourselves apart.
Yeah. I think another thing to piggyback on that with is empathizing, like, you know, your friend is so lucky that they have someone that is loyal and really cares about their well-being. And, you know, your home is generally one of your largest financial assets, and it can be difficult to separate that kind of friend side with this very important business decision that you're making for your family. So it's always great to, like Allison said, at least get another opinion and make sure that, you know, you're not only considering taking care of your friend, you're really making sure that you're taking care of you and your family and your largest asset. And, you know, that's the best thing that you can do for yourself, is get information and make sure that you fully understand what's right for you. So, okay, so we had someone say, I'm having new home buyers get cold feet thinking they aren't ready, even when we've hit all of their needs for a home. What do you do if they're not ready emotionally? Any thoughts on that, you guys?
Yeah, I think that's it's a hard thing when you're out there. I mean, we'll call it on the front lines. You're showing properties, and it becomes a very emotional process with these people. I mean, you'll get people that they'll cry when they find the house that they like, and it's not that they're super sad. It's just that they finally, their dreams are coming true.
Joy.
Yes, exactly. But then it can also, you know, the realization of everything can start to kick in on, you know, they're out there looking at properties and and they've been saving money and they've been trying to build up their credit and all that. And then all of a sudden, we don't know what happens to them in their life and what their situation is. And all of a sudden they just, the floodgates are opened up, and they just start saying, oh, I don't think I can do this. I just don't think I'm ready to do this. And so, that's not always, for us as agents, we don't always have to say, oh, well, just give me a call when you are ready. And so we can start to remind them of what their goals are. I mean, I think that's really, really important, is just to get their mind focused on their goals, what their needs are for themselves, for their family, and try and get them out of, this emotional pitfall that they're in.
Right. Well, and I think a couple different things to think about there. First of all, as their real estate agent, we cannot want it more than they do. And that happens all the time. And it happens, it's interesting. I think something so valuable about us as real estate agents is that third-party perspective that understands what options are available, understands the market, understands what's a great need for a client. Like we can see it when a home's right for them, even when they can't. And so, it can be difficult sometimes when people don't, you're like, this is exactly what you said you wanted, and I know it's perfect. But ultimately, I mean, it creates a lot of friction if our client starts to sense, you just want to sell me a home. You don't even care. And so, yeah, you can't want it more than them. But then the other side of it is, we talk a lot, like Allison talking about mirroring and matching. We talk a lot about like what people's personality profiles are, like a DISC profile, that sort of thing. And, most people statistically are high S. Steadiness, change is difficult. Everything has to feel right in order to make a change. And so it's kind of this path of least resistance that people follow. And so just like in the LP Mama scripting, I didn't say, would you like to meet? I said, let's do this. Let's meet. It's kind of lining that path for them so that they're not feeling the stress of decisions. You're just guiding them. Any other thoughts with that scenario, Allison and Erin?
So I think that it's very, very important, and we've touched on this, but if you don't know what's motivating someone, you can't motivate them. If you don't know that it's their lease is up December 31st, or that their family is going to be growing by June 2nd and they need 4 bedrooms, not 3. If you don't know those little key factors, it makes it a lot harder for them to understand and for you to convey that message of I'm here to help. So I feel like sometimes if we miss the mark and we don't quite understand what their motivation is, that's where it can be a little bit harder. And we're like, oh, what happened? We have to really think, what was their motivation to purchase in the first place? How can I align what I have to offer with what they're looking for if I don't know what they're looking for or why?
That is perfect, Allison, because that reminds me so much when I got in the business way back in 1999. One phrase that I heard a lot around my real estate office was buyers are liars. and it was having this mindset of they told me one thing and then they did another. And, from the start of my real estate career, I did a lot of sales jobs like in high school and college and that sort of thing, and had a lot of great sales training. I'm so grateful for that because like that foundation really helped me launch early. But, it's like buyers aren't liars. You're just not asking the right questions and they don't have enough trust with you to share what they're really thinking. So you hit it spot on.
Yeah, so Misty, one thing I've always trained salespeople on is I draw this really crude picture of a dog. Okay? This is a dog. You have to imagine this as a dog. And so in sales, we have to decide, are we the dog here, or are we the tail? And so you think about a dog. A dog has a tail that just gets whipped all around. And when it gets excited, it gets whipped around. There's no pattern to where that tail is going to whip. And if you're the tail in this transaction, you're getting whipped all around. Where the dog itself, even when the tail's wagging, the dog's steady. And so what Allison was saying, she wanted to be in control of, the conversation and help lead them in the right direction, help reassure them that what they're doing is the right thing, that they're, this is the right decision. And so you have to decide early on and establish early on if you're going to be the dog or the tail. I mean, one tiny little thing that we do, I'll walk into people's house, whether it's for a listing appointment, and we walk through their house, do the little tour on the house, and then we get to the point where we need to sit down and start talking about their house. And I tell them where to sit at their own dining room table. I say, here, husband, you sit here, wife, sit here, I'm going to sit here. I'm telling them where they're going to sit at their own dining room table so that I can present my presentation to them in the best possible light.
You don't want them sitting in their lazy boy in their living room.
And so, but that's what you're doing. You're establishing yourself as the dog. Think of yourself as the dog and not the tail. And so, because if they sit 10 feet away from you and you have a nice presentation that you work so hard to present to them, it's going to be really hard to show them, your presentation if they're sitting 10 feet away from you. And so you always have to establish if you're going to be the dog in the transaction or the tail, and you don't want to be the tail.
I have actually never heard that, and that is an awesome picture of a dog, and I am going to use that from now on.
I'll erase it now.
It makes a lot of sense. So appreciate that.
Yep.
So we're going to wrap up, and we will have this available online, and we'll have it on our Be Better DSM site as well. But we are going to have another similar event with a little different twist 3 weeks from now. We're going to be doing an agent mastermind, and we have done masterminds like this before in a couple different types of settings, but it's just great to throw out, we were really digging deep on converting people and getting them to know us, like us, trust us to become a client. But there's so many different aspects of real estate, the different pillars of our business. And so, it's something that I love to have people ask us questions, and we love to share what works for us and our business. We'd love to hear what works well for you, but we're looking for everyone to be better. So thanks so much, Erin and Allison. You did a great job. So much help and so much knowledge from both of you.
Thanks for putting this on today, Misty.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.